At the top of the roster, we had Atlanta 516, Ray in and out, or in with us tonight. Gainesville 58, Jonathan in and out. Atlanta 355, Damon in and out. Chattanooga 179, Brett in and out.
Yeah, it's okay. We'll figure it out.
Next, we heard Atlanta 528, Ronnie in and out. And Atlanta 261, Scott also in and out. After that, we had CW40, Robert in and out. Next, we heard Cades Cove 78, Charles is in with us tonight. Rome 313, Jay in and out tonight. CW33 was next on the roster, Tom in with us tonight, followed by Blue Ridge 45, Rob in Mineral Bluff in and out. Next, we heard McDonough 22, Tim in Stockbridge was in and out tonight, followed by Cades Cove 80, Eric in and out. After that, we heard Chattanooga 110, Jim in Ringgold in with us tonight, and Atlanta 289, Grady in Jasper in and out.
She doesn't mind.
Dallas 64, Josh in Dallas was in and out, and BR 549, Uncle Mike, somewhere up around Cherry Log, in and out tonight. Next, we heard Atlanta 250, Dana in Dahlonega was in and out, or is in with us, I'm sorry, and Gainesville 417, William in Auburn in and out. Chattanooga 69, the Velvet Elvis in Las Vegas in with us, in and out tonight. And Atlanta 256, Chuck in with us tonight. After that, we heard Atlanta 420, William in Roswell, who's in with us tonight. Let me break. Next, we heard Chattanooga 160, David in Chickamauga in and out, followed by Atlanta 31, Ron in with us tonight. Atlanta 403, Bobby at the Vortex in with us tonight. And Atlanta 77, Warner and Tucker also in tonight. Atlanta 589, Don and Kennesaw in the log tonight. And Atlanta 454, Atlanta 453, Steve and Janine in Lilburn, both in and out tonight. Atlanta 532, Tom and Flowery Branch is in and out. Atlanta 637, Dave and Kennesaw
We're trying
in
to see
and out.
who can put out the most glare.
Atlanta 240, Patrick in Johns Creek is in the log tonight. And Atlanta 1402, Todd in Sugar City, we've got you in the log tonight, Todd. Atlanta 933, Dwayne in Canton is in tonight.
Yeah.
Gainesville 44, Joe in Cleveland in and out. And the last check-in that we heard was Atlanta 214, Tyler in Cumming in and out tonight. Those are the check-ins we heard. I'll hand it back to Net Control.
All right. Well, thank you for that, Mike. Appreciate you going through the roster and getting us all caught up. Let's see. I've lost my page yet again, but I think it's right here. Let me finish my part of the script, and then we can get things started. So on the net, you can talk about your day's activities, radio equipment, or anything you think we'd like to hear about. This is a family-based network, so we encourage you to get your family involved. Once the floor is open, it is permissible to address other members of the net by their name or their tactical unit number. Your FCC call sign is only required when you sign in and sign out of the net. So this is the part. Did we get our announcements from Mike?
Yes, we got to turn it back to Mike for our announcements because we do not have Kate this week.
All right, let's see what's happening in the world of GMRS radio.
All right, well, let's roll right into the announcements. I'm attempting to fill in for Atlanta 751 with your weekly North Georgia GMRS announcements. Let's see how I do. First up, the annual Smith Family North Georgia GMRS Barbecue Gathering is at LL Farms and is going to be on Saturday, April 20th. Gates open on Saturday at 10 a.m. and the event runs through 5 p.m. This is always a great opportunity for fellowship and great food, a chance to put a face with the voices that we hear on the air, and a great place to ask questions and learn about the future plans for the network. You must RSVP ahead of time, as space is limited to 300 people. To RSVP, send an email to NGGMRS events at gmail.com. Up next, the Skywarn Net will be a trivia net next week. Sort of a refresher on the recent training sessions that they've been having. Please have your computer handy if you're participating so that you can follow along during the next net. More information and training materials can be found at noaa.gov/Jetstream. Skywarn training nets are for the Chattanooga region only, and if you have an interest in Skywarn and are not in the Chattanooga area, you should be able to find a local Skywarn group near you. Skywarn nets are on Tuesdays at 7 p.m., only on the northern segment of the network. Let me break. Speaking of Chattanooga, the Chattanooga Lunch Bunch will be meeting on Saturday, March 23rd at Champy's in Eastridge. The address is 6515 Ringgold Road. If you have questions, reach out to Ronnie, Chattanooga69, for more information about the lunch gathering, and also to Ronnie for questions or if you want to participate in the Skywarn training. Jumping on down from Chattanooga to the southern end of the network, the Stockbridge Breakfast Club is gathering this Saturday, February 24th. The location, I'm told, is double super ultra secret, as seating is very limited. If you're in or around the Stockbridge area and you want to join the Breakfast Club, use the secret password Molly Ringgold in an email to WRNX388@gmail.com. That is Whiskey Romeo November X-Ray 388 at gmail.com to get directions for this Saturday's get-together. Also this Saturday, the 42nd Dalton Amateur Radio Club Hamfest is coming up. That's just 2 days from now. Gates open at 8 o'clock in the morning this Saturday. It's a good opportunity to meet many of our favorite radio vendors and to explore the boneyard, see what kind of good deals you might be able to find. Studio Vanguard will be there on display as well. You can stop by for a visit and hope to see everyone in the area who's able to make it this Saturday at 8 a.m. For more information, search for the Dalton Amateur Radio Club on Facebook. That wraps up this week's announcements. And as long as I didn't miss anything, should be time for Julie's tips. So what do you have for us this week, Julie?
Well, thank you for that, Mike. Right now, I think what we're going to talk about this week will be ham radio. There are so many things to love about GMRS radio, and there are a few things we enjoy in GMRS that just don't exist in amateur radio. For instance, amateur radio requires an individual license from each member of the family that uses a radio, whereas our GMRS license covers our entire families. We've often said that in amateur radio, people make contacts to one another, but in GMRS, people create relationships with each other. Another benefit to North Georgia GMRS is that we get to enjoy the largest, most advanced repeater network anywhere. But let's face it, there is only so much we can do in GMRS radio. So what's the next step? The next step in your radio journey is amateur radio. It really is a natural progression. The opportunities to apply radio skills learned from GMRS to other radio hobbies are endless. You have things like DMR, CERT, Aries, Skywarn, and Georgia Oxcom, just to name a few ways to engage beyond GMRS radio. Beyond that, there are contests, contacts with satellites, and volunteer opportunities to provide support for community events, such as festivals, parades, races, and so much more. There are literally endless opportunities to apply amateur radio to other activities, and endless opportunities to learn more about radio and how it works. GMRS radio is very much plug and play, but with lots of restrictions. Amateur radio has no limits. Well, there are some limits with the FCC and all, but in terms of how to apply amateur radio, the only limit is your imagination. Please join us tonight in our conversation about amateur radio as we prepare for our trip to the Dalton Ham Fest. These are just a few of the preferred practices of North Georgia GMRS members, and these procedures are how we become the best operators on the nation's largest, most advanced linked repeater network. And remember, if you have any questions or suggestions for new user tips and operating procedures, send me a note at julie@nggmrs.org. We are North Georgia GMRS Network. And this is WQIR 514, Atlanta 947. Julie, good night, everyone.
Well, good night, Julie, and thank you for bringing us this episode of Julie's Tips. And so amateur radio is the topic for the evening. But first, let's go back to the announcements. The Breakfast Club, the Stockbridge Breakfast Club. Does no one make the connection between the Breakfast Club and Molly Ringwald?
I guess it was kind of like my reference to Ovaltine last week.
Yeah.
Nothing but crickets.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, I guess yeah. Apparently, nobody gets that. You.
I get that.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm not the only one.
No.
All right. It's okay.
It's
We'll go ahead
aging
and-
us, though.
Yeah, it does. It does, doesn't it? Yeah. I'm trying to think of when that movie was. Was that in the 80s?
It was 85 or 86.
Yeah, that seems about right. It wasn't that long ago.
No.
Yeah, just a little while ago. You act like it was 40 years ago or something. Okay. So amateur radio is our topic for tonight. Let me break. And as Julie pointed out, there's just a wide range of ways that you can apply amateur radio, and most of which you just simply can't do in GMRS. So in GMRS radio, we build relationships. We don't make contacts. We make friendships and family bonds here on this network. We engage in a depth of conversation that I've rarely seen in amateur radio. But you can't really do APRS in GMRS. You can't do DMR yet in GMRS. You can't do so many things that are just very common things. One of the most common things to do in amateur radio is DMR. And you can do that with a technician's license. Digital mobile radio is a lot of fun. And are you being summoned?
I'm being summoned.
Penny wants to get on the air, apparently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Julie has to serve the dog. So she'll be stepping away.
That's right.
But as I was saying, there's just an endless list of things that you can do in amateur radio beyond what GMRS offers. And so when you've been bitten by the radio bug and you have installed your GMRS base station and you have a mobile in your vehicle and you have a collection of handheld radios, what's next? Well, next is to go ahead and get your technician license and start exploring radio in the endless ways that we can in amateur radio. So Penny has to make a dramatic exit. All right. With that, let me break one more time. And we're going to go ahead and take some additional check-ins. So let's go ahead and start off again with Zello check-ins. Anyone using the voice over IP protocol that would like to check in, let's take Zello check-ins only, please. Only check in if you are using the Zello app. If you try to check in using the radio, it really messes with our timing. And at the end of Zello check-ins, we leave a long pause specifically because of some of the challenges related to Zello. So please hold your radio check-ins until we call for them. Zello check-ins only.
Is WRQG806, Atlanta 557, checking in and out.
This is WRCT 291, Noonan 35, coming to you live from Zello and waving on YouTube.
I didn't hear if that was a check-in or out.
This is WRBR 303, Chattanooga 30. Jonathan checking in from Hickson.
I did a double.
That's probably why I didn't log it. Just let him take the lead.
Yep.
This is WRBL 465, Atlanta 49, David in Loganville, checking in, checking out.
This is
What are we here?
This is WRYZ 968, Gainesville 100, checking in, checking out. Have a great
I'm assuming
net tonight, guys.
All right, folks, let me hold up right there. We're not taking radio check-ins right now. We're taking Zello check-ins. So let me acknowledge what we have once I get back to that page. We heard in this round of check-ins, we heard Gainesville 43, David in Auburn is in and out. We heard Noonan 35, Walter in Noonan is in and out. Those are YouTube check-ins. I'm sorry. So thank you guys for checking in on the YouTube app. We have Atlanta 557. Ed was a Zello check-in from Kennesaw is in and out. Chattanooga 30, Jonathan in Hickson is in and out. Atlanta 49, David in Loganville, in and out. And Gainesville 100, Randall in Buford, in and out. Let's continue with Zello check-ins. Zello check-ins only. If you're using a radio to check in, it's not a Zello check-in. If you're using your telephone to check in, please call Net Control now.
Control. This is WC 853, Atlanta 631, Atlanta 632, checking in and checking out.
There's Shad and Stacy.
Control.
That doesn't work on Zello.
Guys, please check in if you could. WRTS 814. That's Dakota 33, Matthew Pickens, South Carolina. Good evening, all. Be checking in and out tonight.
That's very challenging in Zello to try to pause and unnecessary. I've failed to communicate that.
WRXK582, Rome 36, Jeff in Silver Creek, checking in, checking out, and hanging around.
All right. Now we're in that uncomfortable pause phase. Okay, here we go. All right, much better this time. Zello check-ins. Let me continue acknowledging. We had Atlanta 631, Shad in Emerson, as well as Atlanta 632, Stacy, also in Emerson. Great to hear both of you back on the air. Shad, it's good to have you with us. Toccoa 33, Matthew in Pickens is in and out. Rome 36, Jeffrey in Silver Creek is in and out. And We have Cades Cove 70 Dwight checking in on YouTube. Those are the check-ins we have at this time. Left an uncomfortable pause at the end in hopes of getting all of our Zello check-ins in. At this time, we're going to continue taking check-ins from Zello and any repeater other than Flagship. If you're on the Flagship repeater, please hold your check-in while we get the surrounding area checked in first. Net Control standing by.
This is Cage Cove 78.
136, checking in and checking out.
Heard Cades Cove 78.
Color something.
This is WSAE 606 in Homer. In and out.
Checking in. We're standing by, listening. You guys have a wonderful net this evening.
That's a double.
He's already in there.
Yeah, I don't think so.
This is WSAE 606 in Homer. In and out.
WSAE 606.
This is WRXM 345, Gainesville 43, David, Auburn, Georgia, checking in, checking out. Code 78, Charles, West Knoxville.
Now he's in there 3 times.
Yep.
78.
This is WRQZ 941, Rome 12. It's Mark.
So that call sign only, I'm assuming it's going to be a guest. There is no Tacoma station with that call sign.
All right, let me go ahead and acknowledge what we have as soon as I fix my page here. We have, we heard Cades Cove 78 Charles in there again. We've got you in the log a couple of times now, Charles. We've got you in. We've got Gainesville 43 David in Auburn is in and out. And we heard WSAE 606 as a guest check-in. We don't have a name, but we've got you in the log. We do have a name. That would be Derek. Derek would be the name for that. We have Rome 12 Mark in Rome is in tonight. And we have WRZY 634 is another guest check-in. That's Chris in Duluth. And that's what we have at this time for check-ins. Let's continue on with check-ins from any repeater anywhere, including the Flagship machine. And let's be mindful that we keep a slow pace and that we don't double on each other. You might open your call by saying "this is" and let off of the key and listen to see if somebody else is trying to check in. If they are, hold your traffic until they're finished and try again. If the air is clear, then proceed with your check-in. Net control standing by.
This is net control at WS, whatever it was for Derek. WSAI 40, and my name is.
That was garbage.
Yeah.
This is WSAP 350, Atlanta 136 in Covington, Georgia. Name is John.
This is Atlanta 305, WRXC 256, James Indicator, checking in, Whiskey for Juliet Echo Sierra.
This is WRVG 415, Atlanta 11. Canton, please check me in and out.
This is WRMC 853 Atlanta 631 and Atlanta 632 checking in off from Zello. Apparently we got covered up.
Yeah, I thought they had already checked in.
They are. That's
Yeah.
why we deleted it.
Yeah. All right. Fully unreadable.
This is WSAM 586, Atlanta 255, Jennifer from Dawsonville, in and out.
So the one that says not readable, I pulled out WSAI something because he dropped a repeater 40. That's why there's an X there.
Yeah, yeah. I sorted that
Couldn't
out.
hear.
All right. I'm going to go ahead and acknowledge this round of check-ins. So I think we had a correction to the WSAE 606 guest check-in for Derek. But we didn't have a good copy on that correction. So what we did here was WSAI, X meaning character we're not sure of, and a 40. So we heard the repeater dropped right in the middle of that. So we didn't get a full copy, and we even went back to the tapes to listen to see if we could pull it out, but we just couldn't. So we heard WSAI and we heard 40, but we don't know. We think we're missing a character in there. So, but that is what we have in a log at this time. Also, we heard WSAP 350, Atlanta 136, John in Covington is in tonight. We heard Atlanta 305, James in Atlanta is in tonight. I don't follow the Juliet Echo Sierra. I'm not sure what.
I'm not.
It was a rough copy, and I'm not sure what you're trying to convey. But we heard that. I just don't know what the reference is. Atlanta 11 John in Canton is in and out, in Atlanta 255. Jennifer in Dawsonville is in and out. And I want to acknowledge again Atlanta 631 and Atlanta 632. Shad and Stacy are in the log. Zello check-ins that are in and out. So we did hear you there, Shad, but maybe you missed the acknowledgement. So there we go. Glad to have you guys back. So that's where we're at this time. I think we'll go ahead and go to the top and get started with things. If you missed your opportunity to check in, we'll call for check-ins again when we get to the end of the program. There'll be one round of late check-ins before we close the net. So stick around as we talk about amateur radio. So Jeff, do you have any comments to make regarding what do you? Well, speaking of amateur radio, there's a great opportunity if you're in pursuit of amateur radio or even GMRS radio to go find hardware, souvenirs, spend money mindlessly. At the Dalton Ham Fest,
or even take the test.
You could take the test. And what's cool about that is, even if you've not studied adequately, if you just go and blindly take the test, there are two possibilities. One is you might pass. You might be surprised at how much, as a GMRS user, you know and how much of that applies. Now, maybe you don't have enough to pass the test. And so the other possibility is that you take the test and you fail. But you don't really fail because you gain the experience of having laid your hands on and your eyes on what a test is going to be and what that environment is and what that feels like, and you become more prepared to go take the test again at the next opportunity. So I wouldn't shy away from, oh, I've not studied enough, I don't think I should do this. I think you should. I think that it's an investment in experience, and it gets that first one under your belt so that you're better prepared to go back and hit it again. There's a lot of things I didn't know the first time I took my amateur radio test. And had I had just a little bit of experience, I might have been able to do a better job that first time around.
Well, for those looking at home on YouTube, we have the address and all that pulled up. But, John, why don't you give us the address and the hours for the Hamfest?
Okay, so the Hamfest, the Dalton Hamfest coming up, it's this Saturday, February 24th. It's located at the North Georgia Fairgrounds at 500 Legion Drive, Dalton, Georgia, 30719. You can go to look up. Just look it up on Google. I saw several links to it. They got a Facebook page. I believe their operating hours are 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. At that location. And you can also tune into or listen in on the frequency if you have the equipment of 145.230 with a negative PL tone of 141.3. If you have that capability.
And for the GMRS users, we're told, very good coverage with the Fort Mountain repeater. So the Fort Mountain repeater to the Dalton Fairgrounds is going to be approximately 11 miles, I think Gary told me, with very good line of sight. So
HT coverage.
If you're in the area, Fort Mountain's going to be your go-to for the North Georgia GMRS network.
So, awesome. do you know who's going to be at the Hamfest?
Well, we are.
That's right. We're going to bring Vanguard. So, if you'd like to come and see Vanguard, this would be a great opportunity to come and see the space that we operate out of on a regular basis. And we're gonna have Vanguard on the air. So it won't be configured as a repeater because it's unnecessary there. We'll be just a station on the air, but we'll have access to the Fort Mountain machine, and by way of Fort Mountain, the entire network. So if you want to come and operate out of Studio Vanguard, this would be a great opportunity to do that.
Very good.
And then, obviously, the vendors and all the other things, and
chat radio is going to be there.
Chat radio is going to be there, and all the other trinkets you can find, and unfound treasures in the boneyard.
Yeah, bring some cash because, you know, if you're looking for a power supply, that's a great place to find them. Let me break. You might find a radio. You might find that Kenwood that you've been looking for, or that Motorola that you've been eyeing for a while. Could be there for a lot less than what you've been eyeing it on eBay. Maybe it's the same price, but at least you get to put your hands on it. Whereas if you're buying it off of eBay, you don't know if you're buying a good radio or a brick. So, I mean, you can look a guy in the eye and you can kind of feel whether or not you think this is the right deal. You might still buy a brick, but you might not. And if you do buy a brick, there's a pretty good chance that somebody will be able to help you unbrick that radio and make it live. So, just you know, don't spend money that you can't afford, but bring some cash. And another great find at Hamfests are all the stupid little stuff. So, like for instance, slugs for the bird meter.
There's plenty of that there.
There's plenty of them out there, and sometimes they're crazy expensive, and you just don't even. If they're too much money, don't even. But you know, if I can find a slug for $50, I'm probably gonna buy it.
Also, there's I believe there is a $5 entrance fee to get into the Hamfest as well.
Yeah, $5 to get in,
Yep.
free parking.
Free parking.
Yeah, there'll be drawings for various prizes. Usually they're pretty decent prizes. This isn't a great big Hamfest like Stone Mountain, but it's a good one. So come on out, hang out with us, get a chance to see the studio, and walk around the grounds. Check out the vendors inside.
Bring a coat.
Bring a coat.
It's going to be chilly in the morning.
Yeah.
Definitely bring a coat. So we might have a warming station right here in Studio Vanguard. Hopefully.
Space is limited.
That's right.
Yes.
If the generator plays nice for us. So we'll see how it all works out. But we're looking forward to seeing all of you there, or at least some of you, or at least both of you that come, whatever the case may be.
Absolutely.
All right. Where are we at?
I don't know. Where are we?
Did we go? We verified all the check-ins except for 2 YouTube check-ins. It looks like.
We got a couple that slipped in at the bottom.
Yeah. Looks like our fearless leader, Atlanta 60. He's the happy ham hobbit today. He checked in on YouTube, which was rare, so we'll mark him as in and out. And we have Atlanta 20, Michael in Cartersville, checking in with us on YouTube. So thank you both for tuning in tonight. And I think it's time to go to the top.
All right. Well, let's go to the top. Let's start off with Blue Ridge 63.
Hey, I know that guy.
Yeah, Mike, are you going to the Hamfest? And do you have any interest in acquiring any artifacts while you're there? And tell us about your amateur radio interests.
Oh, some good questions there. I will be in attendance this Saturday. Been looking forward to it. The last Hamfest that I think I turned up to was the Stone Mountain one last fall, so it's been a little while. I'm not looking for any particular artifacts or treasures, but that doesn't mean they're not looking for me.
That's right.
So I have to be there in case they are, and they need a new home, and there's something that needs to make its way back to Blue Ridge. I've been interested in amateur radio for about a year, and have my technician license, working on studying for my general, and hope to do my test there this weekend. For those watching on YouTube, here's my study guide. This is the one I recommend, the one by Craig Buck. It's good stuff. It's a good study guide, and as I understand it, there's a good salad bar waiting for me if I'm able to knock that general out. So that's my plans for the weekend.
That's right. It's my understanding that when you pass the test is going to be held at the Western
Sizzler across the street.
Yep. So that's a very nearby restaurant, and if you pass the test, then you get a free salad when you purchase a buffet.
You don't say.
I believe that to be the truth.
That's quite the deal.
Yeah.
That's almost as good as the free chicken sandwiches or no charge chicken sandwiches at Chick-fil-A on Sundays.
Yeah, that's right.
Yep.
You don't have to pay for them on Sundays. Yeah.
I'm there.
I've been there.
Straight.
Yeah.
Yes.
But it takes a while to get any service on Sundays. I don't know why.
Almost 24 hours.
Almost.
So
good stuff, Mike. And yeah, you never know at the Ham Fest. You never know. There's been times that I've walked around the Ham Fest and not really felt that anything needed to go home with me. And then there's times that's near the end of the day and people are packing up and there's a power supply that, the guy wanted $70 for, and I thought that was too much, and I ended up taking it home for $30 because he didn't want to take it home. So
definitely good things there.
That kind of thing happens. I bought a radio, that Next Edge radio that I have, the narrowband GMRS radio that is on a shelf somewhere now. I bought that at Dalton Hamfest. I don't know, 3-4 years ago. I didn't pay very much money for it. I don't remember what it was, but I remember paying less than he was asking because it was the last cash that I had at the Hamfest. I pulled out all my cash. I didn't have as much as they were asking, and I ended up with a radio anyway. So
the other service I offer at Hamfest is if you need somebody to help spend your money, I'm an expert at that at Hamfest. So if you want to hand over your credit card, I'd be happy to go shopping for you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, he has done that, and probably will again. I think I don't know. I'm on the fence about sending him over to Chat Radio on my behalf. I probably should do it, but it'd be safer if I just went over there myself. So we'll see what happens.
Oh, we have an update too. The Western Sizzler, that's almost a tongue twister, is no longer the Western Sizzler.
Oh.
It is now the Yellowstone Steak and Buffet. Same address, same building, just different name now.
So is that still the deal? If you pass the test, do you get a free salad with your buffet?
I don't know. You may be offering something that the new restaurant won't.
Well, I guess we'll have to wait and see.
You might be buying a lot of salads.
We'll have to wait and see what the offerings are. But I know that was the case in the past. You've got a free salad with your buffet.
And the testing starts at 1.
At 1 o'clock. So you'll have time to go hang out and explore all the things at the Hamfest, and then go over and take your test. All right. Mike, did you have anything you wanted to add?
No, I think that's enough for me. Looking forward to it and hope to see everybody that turns out. Hopefully the weather cooperates and it's a good weekend. That's all for me. So back to you, Net Control.
All right, good stuff. Well, with that, let's continue on with Atlanta 516, Ray in Canton. Ray, what interests do you have in amateur radio? And have you been bitten by that bug? Do you plan on becoming an amateur, or have you already done that and explored some of the adventures in radio there?
As you know, Justin, I haven't been on the radio for a while, and I am contemplating getting my checks in general. But right now, my radios that I had were repurposed, and I'm relying on Zello to communicate to everybody. So that's where I stand now. But ham is definitely in my future. I do like being on the air, and well, let's see what happens. I'm going to try to make that. I think it was the Fort Mountain Ham Fest. I'm going to have to get myself back on the Facebook group, because I hate Facebook, man. They keep on lashing out at me and stuff, but that's another story. Yeah, right now I'm on Zello, but I'm looking forward to being an amateur operator.
Good stuff, Ray. Yeah, it has been a minute since we've heard you on the air. I'm glad to hear that you're back, and look forward to hearing more from you. Yeah, the Hamfest is going to be in Dalton, and there's more information about the address and hours and stuff on the Dalton Amateur Radio Club's Facebook page. Or you could go to the ARRL webpage, and their Hamfest is going to be listed on that webpage for information. But John, did you pull that up? Is that what you're pointing at?
Yeah, it's pulled up. You just do a website search and pull up Dalton Hamfest.
Do you have an address?
It's just at the ARRL.org.
Or did you mean a street address?
Yeah.
If you needed a street at the fairgrounds are at 500 Legion Drive, Dalton, Georgia, 30719.
So and you could just search Google Maps for the Dalton
500 Legion Drive.
Yeah,
Dalton.
The fairgrounds in Dalton, and I'm sure that that'll get you there. Gates open at 8:00. Historically, the Hamfest, because we're expecting good weather this time, it may run a little bit longer than it typically does. But historically, this Hamfest starts to wind down right around lunchtime. Gates close at 2:00, so it's not an all weekend event like some Hamfests are. So if you're going to come,
get there early.
Get there, yeah. I wouldn't wait until 11 or 12 o'clock because. Well, I mean, you could. Most people are still going to be there, but it's going to be winding down, and some of the best deals may be gone. So we'll be there early. We're going to get there as early as they'll allow us to get in and get Vanguard opened up and set up, and we'll be waiting for y'all to come and hang out with us. So if you make it there, Ray, be sure and stop by. You can't miss Vanguard, so when you see it, come on over and say hello. With that, I'm going to go ahead and move on. We have Gainesville 5-8. Jonathan in Oakwood is in and out. I have Atlanta 355. Damon in Canton is in and out. I have Chattanooga 179. Brett in Chattanooga is in and out. Atlanta 528. Ronnie in Lyerly is in and out. Atlanta 261. Scott in Holly Springs is in and out. CW40, Robert in Nicholson is in and out. And I have Cades Cove 78, Charles in Knoxville is in with us this evening. Charles, do you have any interest in amateur radio? And are you planning on going to the Hamfest?
I have my general license, and I will not be going to the Dalton Fest.
I understand you've got your general, and you're not planning on going to the Hamfest. And in some ways that's smart because you won't spend any money if you're not there.
Exactly.
Well, at least you won't spend any money on that. Who knows what you might spend money on otherwise. But what are some of your interests in amateur radio with that general license?
Probably is my main emphasis, and just stations with folks. I've not gotten on the high frequency yet. I've got a 991A Yazoo, which
I pulled 991, but that was about it.
Yeah, it's a.
Yeah, we didn't catch very much of that, Charles. We've got you're not holding the repeater cleanly, so you were dropping in and out. But understand you got the Yazoo 991. I think I heard him say that he has an interest in PSK.
It's nice radio. You can do that PSK.
Yeah. So, there are a number of different operating modes that you can engage in amateur radio. Is it sprinkling out there?
Yeah.
I need to go deal with that.
Yeah.
Go ahead and.
All right, we're going to go ahead and move on. Next on my list is Atlanta 313. Jason out of Rome was in and out. Then I have CW33, Tom in Bogart. Tom, I understand you fairly recently got your amateur license. So what have you been doing with amateur on that side of the fence? And are you planning on attending Dalton Hamfest this weekend?
Well, I'm not planning on going to Dalton Hamfest this weekend, but you're correct. I'm new to GMRS back in August and got interested in it and started looking at getting my ham technician license and passed that in early December. When I checked in, I guess Justin and somebody made reference to my vanity call sign. I had not intended to do that, but the call sign they assigned me was KQ4MZU. And I quickly learned that the letter Z, the last letter of the alphabet, is called Z, not Z. So when I'd say MZU, it sounded like I was asking a question. So it just, for this old Georgia redneck, it was just too much for me to try to change. So I applied for a vanity call sign with my initials. So now I'm KQ4TAB, Tango Alpha Bravo.
Well, that's a good point, Tom. That's one of the many things that you can do with amateur that you cannot do with GMRS, at least to my knowledge, is apply for a vanity call sign. If you don't like the one the FCC issues, you can go to the pool and see what's available and apply for one that is available, and they call that a vanity call sign. I guess much like you'd do with a tag on your vehicle. If you applied for something that you wanted specifically, and if it was available, you could get it. So Tom took advantage of that because he was getting tripped up and tongue-twisted with the call sign he was issued, so applied for a new one, and that seems to roll off his tongue a little bit better. But that's not something we have the advantages of in GMRS. Kind of got to take what you got.
You know, I as well have a vanity call sign. Part of my family, I'm the third generation of kind of like hams in there. And also I picked up my grandfather's call sign and my father's call sign. So when, you know, they've gone silent key, unfortunately, but I've been able to kind of pick up that thing. That's another thing that a lot of people in hams, they like to do is kind of keep that going in their family. And one thing to note is it may not always be guaranteed.
Right, that's right. You got to request it.
Yes, it has to be requested.
But that is a neat thing that you can carry on a family member's call sign for generations like that. So in your case, 3 times, maybe even 4.
I'm the third.
Maybe even 4.
Maybe
if you
4
have children.
And I don't know if you got time to swap that over, but there's the original license from the 30s.
That's pretty neat. That might be worth throwing up on the Facebook page.
Yeah, it's on my website, but I'll send you the link.
Tom, did you have anything else for us with regard to amateur? I know you started dabbling in DMR and a couple of other modes, but what else do you have for us?
Well, I enjoy learning new things, and it's just a whole lot to learn, and I'm having a ball with it. So I got interested. I got my Anytone 878 has DMR capabilities. It brought back a lot of good memories from my career in telephony and computer science with the different time slots and how all that works. Honestly, though, I was a little disappointed in the quality of DMR. Had some other times you get kind of robot voices, and I don't know, it just seemed like I kind of missed the static of the RF. There's just something special about pulling that analog signal, listening to it, and trying to hear the voices from it. But the other thing is very interesting. I got interested in POTA, the Parks on the Air, and I joined our local amateur radio club here in Athens, and they had a POTA event last month, and I attended that. And that's where people all over go to different parks, and it's usually on the HF frequencies, but to try to make contacts, see how many contacts you can make in distant parts. Let me break for a second. The other thing that I have noticed, though, I was for some reason thinking that when I got on ham that there just airwaves would be just full of people, conversations and talking and all, because I guess that's what I got accustomed to with North Georgia GMRS. And I'm sure it probably is. I'll just give it some more time, but I just haven't really seen the community. I still monitored on GMRS more so than ham, it seems like, because there's something very different. It is a community, or as Rome 313 likes to say, it's a family. And it does seem more personal out there, and I really, enjoy that of GMRS. But it just seems like more horizons out there to explore and different areas to get into with the amateur radio. But that's about all I got to share. I am working on my general. I've been studying for that, and probably within the next month or two, I'll be able to take that test.
All right, Tom. Well, that sounds fantastic. And just for your reference sake, go back and check your messages, because I did reply to you about that interference you've been chasing. So might be worth a look there, and hopefully you can get into one of our very own Blue Ridge 83's repeater a little bit better, and have some of that community going on there on the 2-meter side as well. So have a look at that, and hopefully that'll help track down your problems. So thanks for checking in tonight, Tom, and thanks for hanging out with us. Next, we had a few in and outs. I have Blue Ridge 45, Rob out of Mineral Bluff. I have McDonough 22, Tim out of Stockbridge. And I have Cades Cove 80, Eric out of Rockwood, all in and out. Which brings me to Chattanooga 110, Jim out of Ringgold. Jim, what is your experience with amateur radio, if any? And if you do have some experience, what are your favorite modes, or what do you like different about that radio service versus GMRS? And being in Ringgold, are you going to come and see us in Dalton on Saturday?
I'll answer the last question first. I am planning to come to the Ham Fest in Dalton. As of today, I've had an amateur license for 2 weeks. So I'm brand new with the ham radio, and the license has just enabled me to learn more. I've met a lot of really nice people on both GMRS and ham, and it's just been a great addition to my life, being able to communicate with so many wonderful people.
Yes, sir. There's always some wonderful people out there to talk to, and new adventures to seek, depending on which modes you're operating in. And when you first get your amateur license, at least my experience was, it was like drinking from a fire hose, with so many different modes of operation between digital and, CW and all the other different modes, PSK and was it FT8, all the other different modes. It's like, well, where do I start? And the best suggestion I can give you is just kind of pick a rabbit hole and dive down it. If you want to chase digital, go for digital. Don't try to drink from the fire hose and take in everything all at one shot.
Yeah, there's so much out there. It's such a diverse, and you just get to pick a topic and run with it, and you find an interest in it, and you run with it, and you become an expert on it, and then you share that knowledge with others, and when you get involved with other groups, and then you learn the next topic, and then you advance. It's a lifelong journey for a lot of people.
And all the different modes, I think it's almost impossible for one person to be really good at all of them.
Yeah.
At all of them,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, it's...
Well, I would
varies.
suggest, consider what your other interests are. All right, so like if you're into off-roading, amateur and GMRS radio fit into that really well. If you're into bicycling or if you like to run, you know, a lot of these 10Ks and marathons in the region, there's opportunities for runners to carry a radio and be a reporter or an observer throughout the race, throughout the event, and report back things that you see or conditions that maybe need to be addressed. A water station being out of water or in disarray. Maybe a fight that's broken out in a crowd, or you know, things that you see as you're engaged in the course. If you're carrying a radio, you can provide information that the race officials might otherwise have a hard time getting.
Yeah, I've actually been a part of that. I mean, and if you're running in a road race, they may strap in maybe an APRS beacon on you.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
that's how they do their timing in a lot of these races.
Yeah, to kind of keep that in there. But I've also been involved in a couple bike races where they have SAG vehicles, and you know, we got a radio, amateur radio operator in one part, and then we have someone medically trained, or you can be both, to if anyone gets hurt or injured along the racetrack. There was an unfortunate incident that we ran into a few years ago, and we were the first on scene. And
you know, and that's something that we as GMRS operators have an opportunity to contribute to the network, to the community as well. Let me break. The Atlanta Road Race is one in particular where they're looking for volunteers. In the past, they were looking specifically for amateur volunteers, but now that's kind of opened up, and they're accepting radio operators from multiple bands in an effort to coordinate that. And North Georgia GMRS may be a part of that at some point, but you know, the point is just simply whatever your interests are. If you like to go hiking, there are summits on the air where you hike to a peak or a mountaintop and make contacts from there. There are contests, and that's one thing that really kind of sparked an interest for Julie and I is contesting, and really like to get back into contesting at some point. We're just too busy to really engage in it right now. But contesting, you know, Islands on the Air was a contest that Julie and I were invited to participate in. It's a 48-hour contest, and we were operating from Dauphin Island. And during that period of time, Julie was on the air for about 6 hours total. And during that time, she made herself 111 contacts in 47 different countries around the world. She made 3 contacts in Japan. She made contacts all around the world. And really, really fascinating experience to be able to make all of those contacts in that period of time. So whatever your other interests are that you come to, there's likely an opportunity to apply radio to that interest.
There's aviation on the air as well.
Yeah.
That's a real thing. People are up flying, private licensed pilots are up flying their plane. They're amateur radio operators, and they're making contacts on 2 meter. It's amazing when you're up, you know, 6,000 to 7,000 feet in the air, how far you can reach out.
Line of sight is a big deal. And,
line of sight, yeah.
And when you get up there, that is, you know, in HF or in VHF and in UHF, line of sight is very important.
Yep.
Not so much in HF. HF signal propagation behaves very, very differently in lower frequencies, but
even commercial aviation, they're using HF radios, and when they're up 35,000 feet, there's plenty of pilots out there that are doing that.
Yeah, and they're 10-watt radios?
Yeah.
They're not huge radios.
Yeah. It's amazing. You can get around the world on 10 watts.
I think the traffic control, you know, base stations are probably 100-watt radios, maybe more, but the radio in the airplane is not a big radio. And they're AM. So that's also interesting, is that they've never chosen to translate over to FM, and there's a number of good reasons why.
Right.
But interesting stuff.
Yeah.
So where are we at, Jeff?
We got to break first. And we have a couple of in and outs. And the first one I have is Atlanta 289, Grady and Jasper, in and out. Dallas 64, Joshua in Dallas. And BR 549. Uncle Mike up around Cherry Log. Hopefully enjoying the program on the YouTube, which is why he's in and out this evening. Which brings us to Atlanta 250. Dana in Dahlonega. Dana, I know for a fact you don't have your amateur license yet, but I know you're working towards it, and the amateur side is definitely something that is interesting you, so why don't you share your experiences there?
Well, Jeff, yes, I have to agree. I am working on getting the technician class, and what's funny is I have all the radios, listen to all the radios, which actually is helping me because you start picking up protocols and things like that. But got all the radios, you can listen to them, just can't talk on them. So, but you know what? It's a great experience. I look forward to it, and yeah, I mean, it's going to be very soon, in the next probably 2 to 4 weeks, and I'm just going to surprise everybody. So that's it from me for now.
All right. Well, we'll all be surprised when we learn on Saturday that you've got your technician license. So that would be very cool. And,
good luck.
And I'd like to know. I mean, when you do that on Saturday, I'd like to know if that indeed that offer is true, that you get a free salad when you get the buffet at the restaurant. What did he say the name of the place is? The Yellowstone.
It is the Yellowstone Steakhouse.
Yellowstone Steakhouse.
Yellowstone Steak. I'm sorry, Steak and Buffet. Yellowstone Steak and Buffet.
So they do still offer the buffet, apparently.
Yes.
All right.
You have American hamburgers, grill, chicken, fish, healthy lunch steak. Is their description of their casual dining atmosphere. But yeah, definitely good luck. Good luck on the test, and I know you've already made contacts on GMRS, but when you make the first contact on HF, when you get that opportunity, it's a good feeling. It's fun.
It's very cool.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun.
Good luck.
So one bit of advice, Dana, you've probably heard me say this before. I'm sure many have, but for those that are just curious or just lurking in the shadows, thinking about pursuing this, as you study for the technician license, I always recommend, after you get to the place where you're comfortable with the practice tests and you feel confident that you can take that test, spend a little bit of time in the general material. There is so much that overlaps from technician to general that there is an excellent chance that when you pass your technician test, that you may also pass the general. And if you can get both of those in one sitting, that's a super cool thing.
Yeah, I aced my technician. I missed general by one question.
Same.
Yeah.
Same here. I didn't know, and I wish I'd known.
Mm-hmm.
I had no idea they were going to offer the general after I passed the technician, because I didn't spend any time looking at that material. And having missed it by one question is particularly frustrating.
Yes.
So when you pass the technician test, most examiners are going to automatically offer to you the next level. So, and when you pass the general, they're going to say, hey, you want to go for technician? And there's a handful of our members who have done the trifecta. Most famously, I think, would be Atlanta 123.
Mm-hmm.
Tim sat down for the test and passed all three.
And Chattanooga 100 did as well.
Is that Bob?
Yep.
So yeah, and I think there may be others within the group that have done the trifecta. It's a great accomplishment. It's not an expectation, but missing the general by one question when you haven't studied for 1 minute.
It took me a couple times to get through there, to be honest.
So that's my word of advice. Don't necessarily care that you pass the general, but I do want you to be prepared for the idea that it's coming once you pass the technician. So with that, Dana, did you have a response? You think you'll come away on Saturday? he has no intention of testing on Saturday.
Well, unfortunately, I will not be attending on Saturday, so I have all intentions on hitting Brazelton to do the test, and yeah, wish I could be there, but it's just not in the cards.
All right. Well, you're going to miss out on that free salad with the purchase of a buffet.
Yeah, that's a miss. But you can take your amateur test anytime.
That's right. That's right.
There's online opportunities as well.
And almost every ham club has a monthly test session.
That's right. And some of them are free.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
If you look for a location that does Laurel testing, that's a great opportunity to get a free test. So.
Well, what's the other advantage to doing Laurel?
What is the other advantage to doing Laurel?
Most of the Laurel testing sites are online-based submission, so you get your FCC call sign sooner.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's true. Yeah, because they're submitting the test results electronically. The results are available almost immediately, whereas if you go to a ham club that mails in the results, you may be waiting for your license for a week or two.
That's right. And the thing with the FCC, too, is if you do pass the test this coming weekend, make sure you check your junk folder in your email, because 99% of the time, your FCC license goes to the junk folder in your email.
Well, and that's a good point, because once upon a time, the FCC would mail your license to you, and that does not happen. It's going to get sent to you by way of email. So if you make a mistake, or if your handwriting is sloppy on that form,
good luck.
Yeah. Or even if you do it, a lot of places will make you do the FRN electronically before you come to take the test. And if you enter your email address there incorrectly, you're probably not going to get an email copy of your license. It's not the end of the world, because you can still go check for your license on the ULS. But it is important, because if the FCC tries to contact you and you don't respond, their answer to that is that this is no longer a valid license. And that could be unfortunate. So make sure your contact information with the FCC is accurate.
And one other interesting to note, most of us already have an FRN with our GMRS license. If you don't have a ham yet, you can use that same FRN. You don't create a new one. Use your same FRN, just bring it with you to the test, and put it on your application. So.
That's right.
And if you have no idea what your FRN number is, it's easy to look up on the FCC ULS. Yes. You can just punch in your call sign, and it will come back with your name and your FRN number and your license particulars. So it's a good idea to go to the FCC ULS website from time to time and just look at your license, make sure the information is accurate, make sure it hasn't expired because you weren't paying attention, make sure that all your licenses are correct. Let me break. And that's valid also for your GMRS license. If you don't have an amateur license, I think it's good periodically to go to the FCC ULS and look for your license to be sure that the information is accurate. I do it from time to time, but I'm in the ULS a couple of times a month looking for new GMRS licenses to send postcards to.
Fantastic.
So, who's next?
We got a couple of in and outs. I have Gainesville 417, wrong William. Gainesville 417 in Auburn was in and out. Chattanooga 69, the Velvet Elvis in Las Vegas, also in and out. He is watching on YouTube with us tonight. Then I have Atlanta 256, Chuck, the old dog that said he couldn't learn any new tricks, but we got him on the amateur side. Chuck, why don't you share that experience with us?
Well, yeah, it kind of, everybody said, well, let's all study for the ham tests. And I started studying for the technician And then Justin said, you know, if you're going to study for the technician, once you get that down, you might want to study for the general and then step it up to the extra. Well, I devoted a whole lot of time on the technician, and then I dabbled in the general. And I felt like everybody was like, okay, you got to do this, you got to do this. Well, I took the technician, passed it, and I passed the general, and I'm happy. It was great. I got it at Chattanooga Hamfest. Yeah, it's been a blast. Been on, let's see, All-Star, Echolink, DMR. I did talk to an Irish lad in a pub in Ireland, and I didn't understand a word he said, but I had a good time talking to him. But, yeah. And now you can find me hanging out on Pete's VHF and for KHQ. It's great. I love it. There's a bunch of us. And then you got Bobby Atlanta 403. He's a technician, double general, and an extra. I'll let him explain that one. But, yeah. And I plan on attending the Dalton. I was going to ask if anybody's meeting for coffee there in, where is that, Jasper? For before we head over there. But yeah, if you're thinking about it, definitely is worth it. It's a lot of fun. It is like staring down. It is like staring down a fire hose for information. Absolutely. And I am still the old dog learning new tricks.
Well, fantastic, Chuck. I know you were super excited to sit down and pass both of those tests in one sitting. You put a lot of effort into studying before that Chattanooga Hamfest, plus all the other tasks we threw at you at the Hamfest. So it was a good thing to get what we needed you to get done. That was super helpful, and then still be able to sit down and pass both of those tests in one sitting. So we'll keep learning you new things, and hopefully you keep enjoying it as much as you do now. But you do bring up a valid point of study groups and group encouragement, aka peer pressure. If a couple of guys or a group of people commit to testing together and working together all towards the same goal, okay, we're all going to go test on this day, then you're all going to push each other to make sure that everybody passes and make sure everybody stays on the same plane. So a couple of technicians, if everybody's interested in getting their general, get together, meet at the coffee shop once a week and have a little study group and push each other. Okay, you know, at the next upcoming Hamfest, we're all going to take the test. We're all going to agree to it and kick each other in the backside to stay on track.
Yeah, accountability partners.
Right.
You know, a study group is a great idea, and that's how we got our extra license.
Right.
There was a group of us. There were 6 of us that met once a week. We had dinner at the Tiki Bar, and we cracked open the study guides. We were using the Craig Buck book for the extra class, and all 6 of us passed. So that was a pretty cool thing. So at least 3 of us are on the net tonight.
Yeah.
Yep. I got I didn't have a study group, but what my big motivation driver is, I went when I took my extra. It was during a break between my master's levels courses. So during the summer break, I had a 2-week period, and it was extra with the Don West books, and I passed it. And it was, you know, I was going for my first practice test, and ended up passing it. So I was taking practice tests with the phone and stuff like that as well. But yeah, there's plenty of resources out there, and when you put time into it, and just having those extra privileges on the HF bands have proved beneficial in the hobby.
It is.
Yeah.
the nice thing about, at least for me, is that I don't have to worry about, am I out of band?
Right.
Because if it's an amateur band, I'm in, regardless.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
So that was a concern that I had a lot as a general, was, now what are my band restrictions? Am I allowed here? So yeah, and just get the extra.
Just out the window.
It's kind of not an issue.
Yeah,
anymore.
you just kind of know, it's like, okay, I can talk on voice from between here and here, and I can just turn the knob all the way across, and it's a lot easier. Not like, am I beyond the band plan? Is somebody going to eat rat on me for talking too long?
Right.
It's like,
yeah, where do I get a radio that's smart enough not to let me talk out of band?
Yeah, I need one that's smarter than me.
Yeah.
All right. Did you have anything else for us, Chuck? And typically for the Dalton Chattanooga run up 75, we typically meet for coffee at the Calhoun location, not the Jasper location, just as an FYI. But did you have anything else for us, Chuck?
No, what time you meeting at the Calhoun's location? And I'll be there.
About 6:30.
You'll be there at 6:30.
Yeah.
Me and Chuck aren't going to show up till the Vanguards get the heat on, so we can come here and drink our coffee in the nice warm trailer.
Well, Vanguard's not going to have the heat on until you show up with a generator.
Oh, well, there's that. Well, Chuck, we'll have to discuss this further off the net afterwards. We're going to have to come up with some plan to get us out of working.
Sometime between 6:30 and 7:45.
Yeah, so we'll go with that. All right, Chuck, thanks for checking in tonight, and we will definitely be in touch before Saturday morning. Moving on down the list is Atlanta 420. William in Roswell was mobile, may or may not be back, but let's call out for him and see if he is back. William, Atlanta 420, you still with us, or did you check out? We will assume that to be an in and out check-in and move along. Chattanooga 160, David in Chickamauga was also in and out, which brings me to Atlanta 31, Ron in Ackworth. Ron, what is your experience or interest level in amateur radio? Oh, a note just popped up here that you are a newly licensed amateur. So what has your experience been so far, and are you coming to see us at Dalton this weekend?
Yeah, I'll be at Dalton, and I'll probably try to hook up with you for the coffee that day also. And, yeah, I just got my license yesterday, and this is just a quick thing that Chuck brought up, that the last three letters of my call sign is OVA, which is also the first three letters of Ovaltine. So he brought that up about you. And I did have a good experience today. I made my first contact, and it was with a 2-meter repeater on Jasper. And I called out and got an immediate response, and it just happened to be the owner, a gentleman named Randy, and we had a great talk.
Well, depending on where you live, there is a lot of good repeaters in the area, especially in much of the North Georgia GMRS coverage area. There's a lot of good repeater owners, some of them even owned by our own GMRS members. And there's another repeater in Jasper that Chuck referenced, the N4KHQ repeater, which is probably on the same hill as the one you were talking about, or talking on rather. And you'll find a lot of North Georgia GMRS members on a lot of the 2-meter VHF repeaters up and around the area. So yeah, definitely some good stuff, and a lot of North Georgia GMRS members playing in both sandboxes. So you probably hear a lot of familiar voices on the VHF bands up in this area. Anything else?
No, just keep that poly muffler well grounded.
You're still hung up on the muffler, huh?
Oh, that was hilarious.
Ron, are you using your muffler in your amateur side too? Has it been upgraded to an amateur muffler?
Muffler phaser?
I've upgraded a little bit. I actually just I'm using my mobile antenna in my car. I'm actually sitting in my car right now in a secret location that some of you might know where I'm at if you've been watching the Facebook page.
Well, your secret location, I heard people were just dying to get in there, so we'll just leave it at that. And we'll go ahead and move on down the list. We hope to see you Saturday, Ron. Next on my list is Atlanta Forward 03, Bobby at the Vortex, the double general / extra. I think there's a lot of folks that need explanation on that, Bobby, from Chuck's statement.
Yeah, I was hoping Chuck wouldn't bring that up, but he did. He's good like that. And, Jeff, move your mic. I can't see the flux capacitating. But, yeah, do you really want to hear the story about the double channel?
Well, I showed you the flux capacitor on the YouTube channel, Bobby, but it seemed to mess with your signal, because as soon as I showed it on the YouTube channel, you washed out, so I didn't hear the question at the end.
Oh, I was just saying, yeah, do you really want to hear the story on the double channel? I mean, I thought everybody knew that.
Well, I think we're all just giving you a little inside joke rub there, but what has your experience been so far with amateur? What bands do you like? What modes do you like? And is North Georgia GMRS still your home? I'm guessing it is, because we hear you on there just about every day.
Oh, yeah, I'm still at home here. I've just been messing around on the local 2-meter stuff, because most of my equipment was set up with VHF and 2-meter too, so that's no problem. And eventually I'll get more into the 10-meter and VHF stuff, but I'm most tight, so I can only do what I do. But I'm extra. Like Justin said, once you're there, you don't have to worry about what band you're on. You got them all. So, and I was just happy to see all these guys getting into it, especially like Joe. He was worried about it, but he studied his butt off, and he got his tech, so I was very happy that day, and that's it, the more the merrier, and the next one is Mr. Magoo over there, Dana, he's got to get into it.
Magoo.
Well, indeed, Mr. Magoo does need to follow through, and I believe he will, and that'll be good stuff. All right. Do we need any follow-up on that?
No, I think we got it.
Yeah, I think
he
we
might
got
throw some more insults Dana's way if we let him go have another round.
Well, yeah. But, the double general is an interesting... I don't know that I've ever heard of that happening. And, having taken the test and then the...
Think you passed.
Test officials have lost your... how does it even... I just can't imagine how that came to be. But fortunately, Bobby was able to prove his qualification by taking the test a second time and double general the test. So, and that's all behind him now, because now he's extra double general.
Right, so he's taken 4 amateur tests when there's really only 3.
Yeah, yeah. So he's even more qualified than most of us. All right, next on our list we have Atlanta 77, Warner and Tucker. Warner, do you have an amateur license, or do you have any interest in pursuing one?
I guess he's gone.
All right, I think we're going to go ahead and show Warner as in and out, and keep right on moving on to Atlanta 589, Don in Kennesaw. Don, tell me about your radio adventures, and are you going to pursue an amateur license?
I'm pretty well much educated in radios, I guess. Not a ham operator, really. I wouldn't mind taking the test and passing it, but it's about number 10 on my list of things to do. But nevertheless, I am an expert I am licensed for codes and secret writings and covert communication. And in times of civil unrest, your lowly FRS radio is probably going to be worth its weight in platinum or more. And you know, they can communicate with a GMRS radio halfway. They can hear, but they can't talk. Just simplex. Most of your ham radios going to have a reversible positive-negative offset. So that could be used for covert-type operations. Instead of somebody hearing half of your conversation, they might only hear 1/4 of it, because every 15 minutes you're reversing your positive-negative offset, or every other transmission, or whatever kind of synchronization you'd want. So another thing is, most radios, they don't have an access code like your cell phone would. So, you know, anybody could grab one, turn the on switch, listen to what your neighborhood watch is talking about. They stole the radio. Because you don't have that access code, probably a good thing to whatever privacy code that you use to go ahead and delete that. It ain't too private if it's burned into memory. This is Atlanta 589 WRTI 560, clear and monitor.
Thanks, Don, for those comments. It's interesting. You bring up, you know, the codes and those different aspects of it. One thing on the amateur side, and even in GMRS, no encrypted communications. It's kind of basically just kind of against the rules, but there are ways that that you could potentially carry out a private conversation if you properly plan ahead of time and have a plan of action with who you plan to talk with, and choose a different mode. In amateur, there are digital modes, and you can go to different talk groups or anything like that. But no communication is going to be fully 100% encrypted over the air. There's at least legally.
Well, I mean, you can engage in some conversation of a cryptic nature in GMRS radio legally.
That is true.
And that would be sarcasm mode.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's also
you've perfected that mode.
There's also Morse code, which a lot of people don't know, but you can't guarantee on that whoever's listening doesn't know Morse code.
Yeah, I mean, and here's the thing too with Morse code is you don't necessarily have to know it. You just have to know what app to use to decode it.
That's right.
And then you can read Morse code. So there are apps you can get on your phone or on your computer, and if you just record it on your phone, then you can decode it later. So there's no real privacy there.
Yeah, you can decode it right on your receiver, and some of them.
Yeah, I can't.
Yeah.
Some radios have it built in now.
Yeah, I've seen that. I think Yaesu has that functionality on.
I believe ICOMs do as well.
It could really
I think the 7300 can do it.
Yeah. So I guess that would be bad form to rely on a machine to do the coding and the transmit side of things, but if you just want to know what's being talked about,
you can't even get Siri to send a text message properly.
That's
But
true.
not on the AT&T network.
Not today.
That's a whole different matter.
Let's break.
All right, then. Well, thank you for those comments, Don. That was very interesting. The use of offsets to encode your messaging.
Yeah, to talk to one another. It'd be interesting to see how, you'd have to have that planned out ahead of time, but typically you're using offsets on your repeater setups. Doing an offset on a simplex frequency, I'm not sure how that's going to work. Be interesting to try out.
Well, simplex being simplex, what do you offset to?
That's true.
That's the point. You got to have it planned out ahead of time.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, that would be... I suppose if one person is transmitting on channel A and the other person is transmitting on channel B, and to listen in that offset, that...
If you have like a dual band radio or something like that, you'll, you have one's frequency programmed on your A frequency, and you're listening on the B frequency, and they're transmitting on the B.
See, that would just bug
A.
me to death to only hear half of the conversation.
Right.
Mike has a comment on the matter. Let's see what he has to say.
Oh, well, John was just getting to it. One of the things that I think is pretty common knowledge is using a dual VFO radio to run two channels. And you on the first radio, you're channel A and B, and on the other channel or on the other radio, you run B and A. And so I think John just said it. At any given point, you could only hear half of the conversation. Not encrypted, not illegal, just a way to, if as Don was getting at, your intention is to be a little bit more covert, very easy, attainable, legal, acceptable way to go about that.
Well, that's a good point. That was a much simpler explanation than what we were going down that rabbit hole.
Oh, yeah.
Mike boiled all the fat down and gave it to us straight.
Yep.
So thanks for that, Mike. Moving on down the list, we got a few in and outs here. I got Atlanta 454, Stephen in Lilburn. I have Atlanta 453, Janine, also in Lilburn. I have Atlanta 532, Tom in Flowery Branch. And I have Atlanta 637, Dave in Kennesaw, which brings me to Atlanta 240, Patrick in Duluth/Johns Creek area. Patrick, do you have your amateur license? Do you have any interest in amateur radio? And are you planning on attending Dalton Hamfest this weekend?
I am licensed amateur extra of Kilo Zulu 4 Charlie Bravo. I actually haven't used it very much. I am very interested in amateur radio. That's part of why I got my license. But I've mostly used it to monitor APRS and basically used it as giving myself permission to actually start building my own radio hardware rather than using off-the-shelf stuff like with GMRS. I'm going to break for a second. One of the main things I've been working on is I've been trying to build a repeater. I have been building it out of components, so like a couple of handhelds, an amplifier, and a duplexer, all being controlled by a Raspberry Pi. You guys were just talking about basically duplex or pseudo-duplex with GMRS radios. There's a whole section in the rules about fixed stations can use that to do full duplex directly to each other and actually be talking at the same time like a telephone. And the main user of this is like fast food restaurants that still use GMRS licenses that were grandfathered for their drive-thrus.
Well, that's a good point, Patrick. There are still some licenses that were grandfathered in that are still in use as commercial applications. The FCC no longer issues new commercial licenses for GMRS, but that used to be a thing.
Well, and it still is kind of. I mean, there's a lot of small business, restaurants, and other business that are using bubble pack FRS radios, and sometimes they land in GMRS frequencies. They're at such low power, they really shouldn't be an issue. But you'll hear that traffic, especially if you drive around town scanning in GMRS and FRS. You'll hear a lot of that traffic.
I know the post office uses the FRS radios.
Is that right?
Yeah,
At the post office or out in the field?
They're out there in the post office.
Okay, yeah.
In the office, yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty common.
And I think that there's probably a lot of small business that, you can buy these radios at any of the box stores or sporting goods stores. And, inside an environment like that, they really are pretty effective radios. And they're such low power that there really isn't. I mean, you may be able to hear some of that traffic sometimes, but is it truly interference? I mean, you almost have to go out of your way to hear it, unless they're on the third floor of the hospital,
right?
Passing out HIPAA violations.
So, some good, valid points there, Patrick. Did you have anything else?
Guys are interested in it. My repeater basically consists of two Baofengs that one is running into a repeater and one is the listening Baofeng, and then they are fed into a DigiRig mobile. I don't know if you guys have heard of that.
A DigiRig? Is that a hat for a pie?
I think it is.
But the DigiRig mobile is a small little box you can plug into your computer that then will give the computer the ability to key the push-to-talk on a radio, so that you don't have to rely on the radio's voice activation for stuff. It also lets you use your whatever analog radio you already have for a bunch of digital modes, like weak signal stuff and what's the other big one? Like propagation beacons are big. And APRS. I have actually heard a station from, what is Amicalola, where I am in Johns Creek.
So it sounds like what he's talking about is similar to like the Signal Link device, where it's kind of a sound fob via USB into the computer kind of thing, and then the computer can run the radio and PTT and all those kinds of things that it needs to happen.
And that also raises an interesting point, because my experience in commercial radio, primarily the railroad, we do a lot of data radio, packet radio, and in virtually every case, that is a 100% analog radio. In a lot of cases, those are Motorola or Kenwood radios, and they become digital because of the controller that is driving the radio and handling the PTT. So you'll have a BCM, a base control module, or you'll have a wayside control module. And in either case, it's fascinating because the radio is just a radio. And if we're in a band that we could use those radios, but unfortunately they're way out there.
Right.
And we can't make use of them, but because there's a whole bunch of them going to come on the market real soon.
And speaking of the computers on the side, there are also Raspberry Pi is pretty large in the amateur community. We actually understand we use it for parts of our link repeater network. However, there's a few products out there that work on the digital modes that act as repeaters. This is called a Zoom Spot is one of them. I know you can pick those up online from any of the amateur radio retailers. And there's also some things called open spots and whatever. But those are your gateways. A lot of people use those to connect to D-Star, Yaesu System Fusion, DMR, any of those digital modes, and they can control it. There are repeaters out there, like big standalone repeaters that you can connect to the digital and pretty much talk worldwide through those systems. But with the Pi-Star hotspots or the open spots and things like that, all the computer-driven stuff, you can control where you're connected to, which rooms you're going to. And you're basically using your digital radio or using that as a repeater, and you are able to control the mode that you talk with. Like I regularly use D-Star to do that, and I've got access to thousands and thousands and thousands of rooms that I could talk to anyone in the world on, any other D-Star user. But there's also some common rooms, and there's also some publicly known rooms, or publicly known, they call them reflectors in the D-Star world. A lot of our emergency communications, I think some Skywarn, they use Reflector 30 Bravo in the D-Star network, and they're regularly on there, and I can hear them every week on my D-Star radio. But if you try to listen on that frequency with an analog radio, all you're going to hear is static.
Yeah. And so just another case in point of the many wide-ranging applications of amateur radio.
Yes.
These are all things that we can't really do in GMRS, but whatever your interests are, if you want to be able to pass messages over super low power or horrible radio conditions, let me break. Digital radio offers some really interesting low power, low bandwidth, error correcting messaging systems that you can operate in a portable fashion and
Absolutely.
be able to pass data, emails, text messaging.
You get pictures, and even if you get into the microwave mediums, you can do basically closed circuit television.
Yes, and of course, slow scan TV is another. If you're interested in space, you can get slow scan TV imaging off of the space station occasionally.
Yes.
You can bounce messaging off of the space station's repeater when it is active.
Mm-hmm.
It's not always active, but it's often active.
Often active, yep.
And every now and then, there will be an opportunity for middle school or elementary age students to have a conversation with the astronauts on the space station when amateurs come to that school and set up equipment in order to make those contacts with the space station as it passes overhead. And if it's not the space station, there are satellites in orbit around the Earth that make frequent passes overhead. And as they make their overhead pass, you have about a 10-minute window where you can bounce signals off of that satellite and make contacts with other amateurs doing that.
And you don't have to have a very expensive. You can do it with a cheap $20 radio.
I did it with my BTEC GMRS V1.
Yeah.
So, in the early days, those radios were open to amateur and GMRS frequencies. And so just by setting up 2 channels on that one radio, I was able to do it with that radio.
Yep.
So I don't know that the firmware allows that on the radios that are released today, but the Bofang, the UV5R, the amateur radio UV5R will do that.
Yes.
And it's a very inexpensive radio. What is it, $30?
Yeah, it's $20 or $30.
So, and you can make satellite contacts.
It is best if you can build your own Yagi antenna with a tape measure, and that's like a common entrance into moon bounce.
Oh yeah,
that's the cheapest way to do
antenna.
it. Yeah.
So Julie has actually made a tape measure antenna, and we have it around here somewhere. PVC pipe and some pieces of tape measure cut to specific lengths and attached and wired in a particular pattern on that, and it's a neat little antenna.
Cool.
Our friend Noonan25 Joe often puts on fox hunts for North Georgia GMRS, but he's also an avid satellite chaser and makes lots of contacts with the space station.
And one other, if you attend a field day, summer field day, I know North Fulton, they've got the full setup for satellite.
They do have
yep.
a mobile rig
Yep.
that's made to track satellites,
Mm-hmm.
and they'll spend
That's-
the whole day, and it's fun to watch because as the satellite's moving overhead, that whole antenna array moves and tracks with it
it's
as
all
it goes.
programmed. It's cool.
But as I was saying with Joe, he has one of those Yagi antennas. It's a dual band, so it has the uplink band and the downlink band on one antenna. It's got two coaxes that come off of it to plug into a pair of radios specifically for operating satellites or the space station.
Yeah, I believe the ICOM, the IC 9700 is specifically designed to do that. They've got the different inputs for the different frequencies because you're using that dual band.
Very
interesting
good stuff.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you for all that, Patrick. Did you have anything else to add? And are we going to see you at the Hamfest?
I did want to ask, you had asked if I was an amateur. I had at one point tried to submit that to the log. If it's not in there, just let me know and I'll go ahead and send another email off. But unfortunately this weekend I have personal plans that prevent me from making it all the way up there. It's a little bit of a drive for me, just about 2 hours. But I hope you guys have a great time.
All right, Patrick. I'm sure that we will. And well, if you can't come, just send Katie up. I'm just kidding. I look forward to hearing of your adventures with your repeater and your other radio activities. I think you're on to something here, and I look forward to seeing where it takes you. Thanks, Patrick, and look forward to seeing you at one of these events along the way. Next, we have Atlanta 1402. Todd in Sugar City. Todd, do you have any interest in acquiring your amateur license? Oh, wait a minute. I think he already has. What are you a general, or do you have your extra by now?
Todd bailed on us.
I think maybe we're having too good of a conversation.
Maybe.
He has commitment issues.
Commitment issues?
Yeah, we've run into that before.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, apparently Todd is busy with other things, and we're going to go ahead and move on. And I know Todd is active in the amateur side of things. I would have enjoyed a conversation. But we'll keep moving here. We have Atlanta 933. Dwayne in Canton is in with us tonight. Dwayne, do you have any interest in amateur radio, and are you planning on going to the Hamfest?
Yeah, I actually am pretty new to both ham and GRMS, or GMRS. I'm not going to be able to make the Hamfest, but I just got my technician's license in October of last year and my GMRS license in December. And, when I got into ham radio, my goal was to have alternate, communication when conventional methods fail. Of course, we know that would never happen, AT&T, anybody today. But, also just to stay in touch with family and also, to serve in the community. I'm a member of the CERT team in my county, the Citizen Emergency Response team. And so I was doing some research of repeater networks and stumbled across North Georgia GMRS on the web. And, I looked at the website, started looking at the history and the intent of the network, and actually watched Gary's video. I think he did a presentation at a recent Hamfest. Thought it was kind of funny. He said, as the head of North Georgia GMRS, he's also the head of one of the largest ham clubs in the country because there's so many hams here. So I thought that was pretty funny. But when I looked at the coverage map, I realized that this is exactly what I was looking for. I wanted to stay in touch with family. I've got two daughters in college. One of them's out of state, and it's within the coverage network. So, I went ahead and got the license, signed up for the network. GMRS license covers your entire family. And we're already familiar with, the FRS walkie-talkies. We've used them camping and stuff. And I've actually been able to talk to my daughter out of state from my driveway all the way to her dorm, you know, in a different state. So it's been great. Really enjoy it. And the one thing I noticed is, you know, when I was on the ham frequencies, it's pretty quiet. But when I joined the North Georgia Network, it's a very active network, very friendly people. You know, I agree, it's a family. And the people have just been very, very helpful. And I've learned, you know, more about, you know, on-air protocols and radio and just, you know, just everything about radio. I've pretty much learned just being a part of this network. So, and just recently, I know Chuck mentioned Pete's repeater. He's a network member, a 2-meter, the N4K HQ repeater. I've been on there just recently, the last couple of weeks, and I've talked more ham band contact, being a member of the North Georgia Network, than I ever did just as a ham. So.
Time out.
Mm-hmm. A lot of familiar voices out there that a lot of people have mentioned, and it's been a great journey.
Go ahead.
What's his name?
Dwayne.
All right, thanks, Dwayne. There's very interesting comments. You know, I agree with a lot, and also I counter agree to your point that some of the activity here may be a little bit less, and that kind of comes with the nature of ham radio versus the big network like we have here. A lot of amateur operators, they're operating to listen, and in GMRS, our community, we're encouraged to communicate and grow those relationships. And it's sometimes it's just the nature of the what you're trying to do, and not knocking either way. The North Georgia GMRS Network is large, and it's a great family, and there are a lot of smaller groups that are tied with some of the local repeaters, and they may have they're maybe more localized. So there's a purpose for both. I see there's definitely good sides and there's bad sides, you know, on anything when you look at something like this. But there's some very good points that I do agree with you on there, and it's definitely a interesting journey.
Well, you know, we don't gain any ground saying, you know, that ham is better or that GMRS is better,
right,
because they're both communications tools, and they both have valid application.
Exactly.
So it's not so much something that I would ever say that GMRS is better than ham or that ham is better than GMRS, but they're different applications. So, for instance, in GMRS, we have one license that includes our whole family. You can't do that in amateur radio.
Right.
But there's a million things in amateur radio that you can't do in GMRS.
Exactly.
And so, you know, if you really want to explore radio, it's a combination of, and having the dual license is a valuable thing. And as Dwayne pointed out, and I think I may have monitored some of that QSO when his daughter was on the way to the dorm, doing periodic radio checks along the way. And I thought that was really neat because, you know, here's a brand new family on the network exploring the capabilities of the network with family members. And it's so important because so many times we talk about, you know, being prepared to communicate in an emergency, and yet our family members are disengaged or uninvolved or even worse, unfamiliar with using the radio, so that if something does happen, who are you going to talk to?
Yeah.
You know, so I don't necessarily expect everyone to get their spouse on the air every Thursday night to talk to me. But I do hope that families are taking their radios out in the backyard and operating in simplex, or taking them out hiking or in the woods, or in, you know, if you're having to operate in two different vehicles for some reason, go ahead and throw a radio in each one and simplex your way about as you drive around, and you know, get practiced get on the air. That's the most important thing. Get your family members on the air.
Absolutely.
And so that when something does happen, because this AT&T outage today, this is not the first time.
No.
And it's not going to be the last time.
Absolutely.
And who knows, the next time could be huge. We need a break. So having those tools to communicate with are very important, but we've also got to practice.
Exactly.
Practice. You got to get those tools out and put it to use from time to time. Generate that muscle memory. Generate that comfort in keying the radio and being confident in what to say and how to say it. And
well, even like you mentioned with Dwayne's family, is knowing where you have coverage and where you don't.
Also important.
So, like, for example, I know on my road, there's a 3/4 of a mile stretch where you got no radio coverage, so don't try to talk there. But as soon as I get outside of that 3/4 mile window, I'm back full strength in the flagship on one side or Fort Mountain on the other. So knowing which repeater you need to jump to based on your location, and all good things to know that, again, go with practice.
Yeah, and so that I think is the most important thing, is not so much whether amateur is better or GMRS is. It's not. It's another mode of communication. And,
right.
And when AT&T blows up and we can't use it, we still have options. And you have to think too. This practice on Friday nights with the simplex operation that these guys are doing. This is also so crazy important. We don't realize what an important thing this is, to know what your simplex coverage is at home, at work, at your neighbor's house, at the place that you're going to be if there is a disaster. If you've got a place where you can bug out to, you kind of need to know what your radio coverages are there, because if you don't know and you can't practice that, you don't have some assurance of what your options are.
Right.
Your tools aren't very good.
There's a use case for each mode of radio, whether it be broadcast communications, whether it be GMRS, CB, FRS, ham, amateur, digital modes that are out there. It's just a use case, and there's always just different applications that you can go in and explore. And going through the GMRS network, it's an excellent network. It's the largest network. It serves a purpose. Do you always need to do that or broadcast on the full GMRS network when you need to be doing the simplex communications?
And there's times that makes sense.
Exactly.
Simplex is the right choice for some communications.
Yep.
The other thing that Dwayne mentioned that I want to kind of amplify. I need a break. The other thing I wanted to mention, Dwayne had commented about Gary being, the leader of the largest ham club in the area by the fact that the GMRS group is so big and there are so many hams. About 40-ish% of the membership are amateurs, at least that we know of. I think that there are many amateurs that haven't told us that they're amateurs, and we don't really check for that.
We're sitting at 310 right now.
So, and that's pretty good sized number of amateur radio operators.
Yeah.
We have always encouraged folks to pursue an amateur license, and it's the next logical step. If you've come and Dwayne did it the other way, he got his amateur license first and then came to GMRS. But many of us come here to GMRS because there's no test required. All right, so we don't have to really demonstrate knowledge of anything. We can just buy a license and get on the air. And that works for a lot of us. That's exactly what I did.
Yep.
Julie and I came to radio through GMRS and developed an interest in expanding our radio knowledge and exposure. And Julie's now a general. I'm an extra. As time goes on, you continue to pursue that. And it's just a natural progression because, like we said, you can't really do contesting. We've tried. and there's limited contesting that you can do in GMRS, but
we did the only one that we know of.
Right. But there's just not, you can't do islands on the air or SOTA or POTA or those kind of things with GMRS radio. Yeah. Well, maybe you could, but it would be limited. And then the other thing that Dwayne touched on that I think you touched on that I want to make mention of is one of the differences in operating between amateur repeaters and GMRS repeaters. There are linked amateur repeaters, but most amateur repeaters stand alone.
Yes.
So when you're dealing with a standalone repeater, that repeater's coverage is limited to a smaller population area than a massive linked network like this would have. If there were 20 or 30 linked amateur repeaters across North Georgia, its footprint would be massive. But that's just not the mode that most amateurs want to operate in. And so they don't. And then they find us and we fit that bill. And so it's also not really a better than or worse than.
It's just a different use case.
It's just a different use case. Yeah. And so it makes it an effective additional tool to have. And but we've always encouraged North Georgia GMRS members to pursue their amateur license.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we've always wanted that to be a priority with our membership.
Yeah.
So, good stuff. Dwayne, did you have anything to add?
Yeah, I can't hear.
Can you respond to any of that?
I didn't hear it well enough.
Dwayne, we had a little technical difficulty here in the studio, and we could see that you transmitted, and we could hear you in the distance off on another radio, much like Jason monitors a second radio. We have one here, but it's not close enough to feedback like his is. In any case, Dwayne, we didn't hear any of that. Can you come back with that, please?
Was Mike able to hear it?
I'll give you the Reader's Digest version. Basically, I'm not sure if my my initial transmission was heard completely. I think I might have unkeyed it for part of it. But the point I was trying to make is that, ham radio and GMRS radio, they complement each other wonderfully. It was not my intent to give the impression I was looking at one over, the exclusion of the other. But I just learned what you learn on one applies to the other and vice versa. You had mentioned the simplex testing. That's just learning the capabilities of your radio and propagation. Working through standalone repeaters and things of that nature. There's just no downside in being involved in both aspects. So I just wanted to be sure to make that point.
Well, very good points, Dwayne, and I think that was what everybody heard as far as your intentions of your comments. I don't think anybody really took it as one was better than the other or one versus the other, so to speak. So,
yeah, you do hear a lot of conversations around that in different forums, definitely.
So
it's out there.
Thank you for checking in with us, Dwayne.
Absolutely.
And I'm going to turn it over to our director of roll call for the long list of in and outs that we have next. Why don't you rattle those off for us, Mike?
All right, I saw this this block of in and outs coming, and yeah, happy to run through them real quick. So we've got Gainesville 44, Joe in Cleveland, was in and out tonight. Atlanta 214, Tyler and Cumming, also in and out tonight. Gainesville 43, David, joining us from YouTube. Thanks for checking in on YouTube, David. As well as Noonan 35, Walter. We caught you on the YouTube stream as well. Thanks for being a part of that. Atlanta 557, Ed in Kennesaw was in and out tonight. Followed by Chattanooga 30, Jonathan and Hickson in and out. Atlanta 49, David in Loganville was in and out. Gainesville 100, Randall in Buford was in and out. Atlanta 631 and Atlanta 632, Shad and Stacy in Emerson, Georgia, both in and out. Thanks for checking in tonight. And Toccoa 33, Matthew in Pickens, South Carolina, was in and out. Rome 36, Jeffrey in Silver Creek, in and out tonight. And then we had Cades Cove 70, Dwight, also joining from YouTube. Thanks for checking in tonight. Cades Cove 78, Charles, we had you in the log. I know once and maybe even twice. We've got you as in and out. Thanks for checking in. And then we had Gainesville 43. David in Auburn was in and out tonight. After that, we had a guest check in. I believe this was the one that we had some issue copying the full FCC call sign there. It was WSAI and then a character and then 40. We've got you in the log. We'll go ahead and stop right here and call out to you. I think this traffic came from the Toccoa repeater, so if you are still listening, love to give you a chance to get in on the net and share any thoughts, questions that you have about amateur radio, and we'll see if we can reach you. So go ahead.
Hey there, this is WFAI 340. That's WFAI 340, and this is off of Fort Mountain Repeater, and this is Larry in Chatsworth, and my check-in was in and out. WSAI 340, I'm clear.
F or S?
All right, much better that time. Thank you, Larry. We've got you in the log as in and out. Good to have you, and hope to hear you again on the air next time. We'll keep rolling along in the roster. Next we heard Rome 1-2. That was Mark in Rome. Mark, we've got you checked in tonight, so we'll take any questions, comments that you have for the net regarding amateur radio.
Control, thank you. Yeah, I've got my, I've had my technician license for about a year, about the same time I got my GMRS license, and I am going to be at the Dalton Hamfest. I plan to take my general test. I've been studying for quite a while for that, and the way I do that, since I spend a lot of time at work in my truck watching my contractors work, I got the Fast Track audio book, which allows me to spend more time, listening to the chapters. I can go back and forth, stuff I want to look at again, and not have to be in front of a book where I can't do anything else. So, great. So, hopefully I've studied enough, and maybe I'll see some of you guys there tomorrow. And looking forward to getting on HF. I'm kind of interested in the QRP side, small rig, low wattage, portable antennas, setting up somewhere and trying to make some HF contacts. To me, that sounds like a lot of fun.
Oh, very good. Well, hopefully this weekend is good to you, Mark, as far as the testing goes, to the both of us. Maybe we'll be enjoying that salad together over at the steakhouse when I finish my general as well. So thanks so much for checking in. We're going to go ahead and move along in the roster. The next check-in we heard was also a guest, WRZY 634. I have it as Chris, as in and out. After that, we heard Atlanta 136, John in Covington, also in and out. The next check-in we heard was Atlanta 305, James in Atlanta, checking in with us tonight. So James, we'll take any questions, comments that you have for the net regarding amateur radio. If you're a licensed operator, if you have any interest in that, and if you plan to attend the Hamfest this weekend. All right. Well, not hearing anything back from James, so we're going to go ahead and update the log and show James as in and out. And then I've got another block of in and outs as well as some YouTube check-ins, so I'll go ahead and roll on through those. The next check-in we heard was Atlanta 11, John in Canton, in and out. Atlanta 255, Jennifer from Dawsonville, checked in and out tonight. Atlanta 60, the Happy Ham Hobbit, joining us from YouTube tonight, live on the stream. Gary, thanks for checking in. And Atlanta 20, Michael was next, acknowledging your YouTube check-in. Atlanta 519, Gary, we've got you also joining us on the live stream. Dallas 20, David, I noted you in the comments there, so I went ahead and put you in the log. We're going to show you as in and out. And then we had two more just come through. Chattanooga 84, Jim in Hickson. We'll show you as in and out. And Atlanta 95, Ken. Also got you, saw that you were having some difficulties hitting flagship. We are aware of some issues up there tonight regarding the wind. But thanks for going ahead and letting us know on YouTube. We've got you shown as in and out. That concludes the list that we have. So 946-750 will let you decide where we go from here. Should we take some more check-ins? Maybe do a late round?
Yeah, I think we'll do our customary end of the roster last call for late check-ins. We'll take one round of late check-ins, one round only. Also, this is an opportunity for anyone with questions or comments. If you have a comment, just say comment with your TAC number. We'll enter that in the log, and we'll come to you after we acknowledge and speak with our check-ins. So anybody that would like to check in or any questions or comments, the floor is open. Net Control standing by. Pamela wins.
This is Atlanta 420 WRFS 771 with a comment. This is Atlanta 95 with a comment about his repeater.
WROT 224, Chattanooga 113, in and out.
This is WRPM 847, Chat 162, in and out. This is WRCL 542, Newton 120, checking in, checking out in Fayetteville.
This is
WRXT 576 Atlanta 610. Checking in, checking out.
I think Pamela was in and out, wasn't she?
I'm not sure. I'll call on her. We'll see.
Atlanta 9-5. Am I hitting the repeater now?
All right, we'll go ahead and acknowledge this round of check-ins. And yes, Ken, Atlanta 9-5, you are hitting the repeater. Your audio is low, but you are readable. Let me acknowledge this round of check-ins. We had Atlanta 848, Ernest in Duluth. That was a rough copy. There was a double in there, so we only heard the very end of that when Pamela came on and said 849. So we've got Atlanta 849 as in, and we have Atlanta 848. Ernest is usually in and out, so that's how we have them marked. If that's not right, we'll figure it out as we go. Chattanooga 113. See, who is Chattanooga 113? Is in Ringgold. Let's see if.
Let me pull a membership.
All right, we don't have a name on that, but it should pull. We're gonna see if we can fix that. We have Chattanooga 162. Larry in Chattanooga is in and out. Have Noonan 120. Carmine in Fayetteville, also in and out. Atlanta 610. David in Marietta is in and out. We had comments from Atlanta 420 and Atlanta 95. So stand by for those comments. But first, let's go to Atlanta 849. Pamela, did you have any comments for the net, or did we miss that and you were in and out?
Okay, gentlemen, I am in, and I do have a few comments. So are you hearing me all right now?
Yeah, your audio is just a little bit low, but your signal is clear, so we are able to hear you well. The reason we didn't hear you before was because someone was doubling on you, but we've got a solid copy on you now.
Okay, great. Well, I'll try to be short. I enjoyed listening to it tonight because I haven't become a ham yet, and you know that 848 Ernest has got his tech license, and I enjoy listening after midnight most of the time when we're listening, because they have a group that's on after midnight, and I hear a lot of things, learn a lot of things, and enjoy it. Wish I could pick up the microphone and say something, but I can't yet. It's great. The thing I really like about it is hopefully being able to listen to people in other countries. I think that would be interesting to do like Julie did. So I'm looking forward to that. One of these days, I know Ernest is going to get his other license and is working on a antenna set up here to be able to do that. And he does also have the Raspberry Pi you were talking about. I don't know a whole lot about it, but also one more thing, I have heard Dwayne actually talking on the amateur side, and a lot of guys, and I've been told that they have heard me actually talking on GMRS, so that was kind of unique. And I'll just hand it back to you guys. I hope you got all that, and I've enjoyed it. Thank you.
Well, that's good stuff, Pamela. And hopefully, I don't know how it's going to play out in your household. The dynamic is different in different relationships. But Julie and I were able to effectively study both our technician and our general together. When I began to pursue the extra license, she really didn't have an interest at that time. But she has made mention a time or two since then that she would like to get her extra at some point along the way. So, but just being with each other and being able to, one thing that Julie and I were able to do is we printed off. I got the postcard perforated paper from Avery or whoever it is, and I was able to print off flashcards. And so the flashcard will have the question on one side, and then the answers on the opposite side, and the correct answer highlighted. And we're able to, like on car trips, we could, just sit there with the flashcards and go through a series of questions, and you can knock out 10 or 15 questions in just a few miles. So you don't have to do all of it all at once, but for the extra, it's a pretty big box of flashcards.
That's and if your phone's working, if AT&T's up, there's also an app for that.
There's a great app for that does almost the same thing, and it even looks very much like that flashcard format where it pulls up the question. I think it's hamstudy.org.
Yep.
It'll pull up the question, and then it'll give you the A, B, C, or D, and you pick it, and if it's right, it'll show you, and if it's wrong, it'll show you that too. Mm-hmm. So what's cool about that particular app is that it keeps track of your progress, and it gives you the opportunity to take practice tests. And the practice tests are kind of randomly selected questions from the question pool. But as you study through that app, the material that you have mastered, that you show mastery in, that you understand, it kind of sets that aside. It'll still present those questions from time to time, but it focuses more on the material that you haven't mastered. And so it gives you study time in the areas that you need it the most. And that's something you can't do with a box full of flashcards.
Yep.
But in any case, however you study, Pamela, I would encourage you to make that happen, because I think that you would very much enjoy grabbing that microphone and having conversations in the amateur side of things. And get your general license, and you can get on HF, and lots of opportunity to engage in conversation around the world.
And you don't even have to get general to talk around the world. You can, with your technician license, you can talk on 10 meter for at least for the next couple of years, probably at least. And if you get the right equipment on the digital nodes, broke there for a second. You get on the digital modes, you can talk there's plenty of people all around the world. I regularly talk to New Zealand.
Yeah.
And some people from Dublin, Ireland, and a lot of people from New York that I cannot understand.
And what's amazing is you can talk to China, or you can talk. Well, I don't know. You can talk to China. You can talk to Japan.
Yeah, you can talk to Japan,
and they speak fluent English
and Korea
over the air.
Yes.
So you talk to these foreign countries, and they're all speaking English. We don't have to use. You can talk to different parts of Russia. I don't think you can talk to all of it, but you can talk to some parts of it. And their English is very, very good. You can talk to Brazil. You can talk to many of the South American countries, Australia.
Yeah, I hear a lot of South American countries on 10 meter whenever I go up to Amicalola. It's pretty common to hit them up there, and most of the time they're in English. But sometimes they'll be speaking in Spanish too, if they're talking locally. If you can pick up both of those,
right? Yeah, but it's pretty amazing how most amateur operators internationally are bilingual or more, and can speak to you in your language. So, Pamela, I think that you would enjoy that immensely. So I encourage you to pursue that if you're able. All right, with that, let's go ahead and move on. We still have a name missing for Chattanooga 113, but we've got you in the log there from Ringgold.
It's in the membership roster with a missing name. It just says reserved. So an email needs to be sent with some names filled in there for that family.
Yeah, and that's if you have a multi-tactical unit number membership level, and you've only provided one name. Just send us an email with the additional names for your family for those units, and we'll get them in the roster so that and that's probably what happened here, is that your family member just isn't listed in the roster. We can fix that. So just send us an email and let us know who we need to add in those slots. Next on the list, we have Chattanooga 162. Larry in Chattanooga is in and out. Also, we heard Noonan 120, Carmine in Fayetteville, in and out. We have Atlanta 610, David in Marietta, in and out. And there was a guest check-in from YouTube with no name.
Yeah, that's correct.
All right, but we do have a call sign. It's WSAT 592. So thank you for that check-in from YouTube. And that'll bring us to our comments. We had first we had Atlanta 420, William from Roswell. William, go ahead with your comment.
Control, it's a great net there. I caught it at the last end there as I was traveling around there. I have to agree with you. I think amateur radio does complement GMRS fantastically, and it opens up new doors. It starts with a thought, and then a thought becomes an action, and action becomes a routine. And GMRS opens up communication where people are using it on a regular basis and communicating daily, which enhances your skills there. Having the amateur license, again, then opens up other doors to other methods of transmitting and things. And that's what's great about our network. And I was glad to follow up and take your advice and get that amateur license after becoming a GMRS member. Let me take a break. I had hoped for our GMRS network there that as an organization that maybe they perhaps add in like a 2-meter business frequency that could be used like for maintenance and communicating for between the repeaters or different things there. But I think it would be helpful for members and like I said, in a preparing situation because business frequencies, staying legal, can encrypt their communications using digital or analog. And the 2 meters can bump up to 1,500 watts of power, but usually the FCC tries to keep you within range. But if you're given a frequency, you're staying legal, even in a situation where people need to stay in contact. But that would give people, let me take a break. That would be a way of reaching out at far distances to people to give encouraging words, prayers, thoughts, communications between different things. And I have a feeling that if there was a negative situation that did happen on a large scale, that GMRS would probably be overwhelmed with unlicensed users, and we'd have to have some type of alternative way of communicating between our network there. And I think many churches as well as our members would probably support having an additional business frequency just because of our elevation of our repeaters. Any words or comments back? Oh.
You know, that's a common theme that I hear is that if the stuff hits the fan or the networks go down, is that there's going to be an overwhelming amount of traffic coming to GMRS, and much of that traffic will be unlicensed. And I hear that concern raised in the amateur world as well. And many times you'll hear people say, well, if there's an emergency, I don't need a license. Okay, well, if there's an emergency and your life or property is in peril, then you may transmit without a license in some cases. But I would offer this. If somebody comes on the air transmitting an emergency and they won't identify, I'm going to be concerned that this person is maybe swatting or this person is in some way illegitimate. And I'm probably not going to even respond to that emergency call if it doesn't come with an FCC call sign. I'm sorry, but the world today implies to me that call is not worthy of me risking my license and engaging with unlicensed traffic. So I hope that many people would also consider that before they engage in communication with someone without a license.
Well, not to mention
the likelihood of it being a valid call is pretty small.
Not to mention the possibility of fraud if you call in 911 on somebody else's behalf.
All right.
Exactly. Yeah.
So that's not even just your license. I mean, you could get in trouble with the law for that.
And you've got somebody allegedly on the radio on the other end that you don't know who they are. They don't have a call sign. So I negate that argument completely. Now, maybe I'm going to be wrong. Maybe when the cell towers topple down and the internet crashes and the power grid fails, all these neighborhood kids will hand their FRS radios to Dad, and Dad will figure out how to jam our frequencies. I doubt that's going to happen. Seriously, no. It's just not a concern.
It's one thing to take into consideration. It's more important to listen in situations like that.
Yeah.
And be careful. Just with anything in our world today is listen. Gather the facts, gather the details, understand the facts, and gather your own opinion on what's being broadcast to you.
That's right. That's right. And there's a lot of information and wisdom that can be gained just by paying attention to what's going on around you. So the other point that William was making was, having an alternative mode, like a commercial frequency or a 2-meter frequency. Well, you can't do 1500 watts on 2-meter or in commercial radio.
Yeah.
You're lucky to get more than 25 watts if you get a commercial license.
That's correct.
So, and you're certainly never going to do 1500 watts on a 2-meter repeater. That's not happening. That's not what the FCC rules allow. You could do 1500 watts on some HF bands.
Yep.
But those are not repeater bands. And quite honestly, once you get over 100 watts, there are circumstances where you may be able to burn through the noise with more power. But, the idea of 100 watts in a wire works because it works.
That's right.
If you can't do it on 100 watts, 500 watts probably won't do it either.
Exactly.
Not to mention the power you're going to consume in an emergency situation where resources are limited to run 1,500 watts.
Do you want to burn that much fuel trying to get powered through? So in the HF world, many HF transceivers are 100-watt transceivers. A handful are 200-watt transceivers. To get beyond that, you're using a power amplifier. And there are, let me break. There are many, many, many ham stations that are barefoot that do not have an amplifier and just run right out of the transceiver. And that works. So in terms of alternative bands for administrative communications, there are a handful of options available there that North Georgia GMRS already has. We just don't really talk about them because making them publicly known kind of diminishes their value.
Yep.
But the biggest alternative out-of-band communications option that North Georgia GMRS has is very well utilized, and that is the 2-meter repeater on the mountain there at Flagship. And there are many other 2-meter repeaters throughout the region that we could access or go to if we needed to. So those alternative paths already exist. There's no reason to invent the wheel. We just go get one. So,
yeah. But I did have one comment on the power. One, and if you read, it's in the tests. Like it was one of the questions on the test, I believe. One of the objectives in amateur radio, the challenge is to broadcast as far as you can on as little power as possible. QRP. That's. I mean, I've taught across the country on 10 watts.
And the Summits on the Air, that practice is backpacking or carrying all of the equipment that you're going to use to operate in HF from a mountaintop. So you don't want to carry a great big, you don't want a Yaesu 991 on the mountaintop, unless you're going up there in a quad. If you're hiking up the mountain, you want a unit that can operate off of a battery that's small enough that you can carry.
Right.
We're not talking about a car battery. We're talking about
there's some really nice little rigs. Elecraft makes them. The ICOM 705 is a really popular. I've got that one, and that it works wonders.
Yeah. So and those are not high power radios.
Those are not. Those
10
are
watts max.
10 watts max when you connect a LiPo battery, or it can run off its own internal battery at 5 watts.
And at 5 watts, or some of those operate effectively at a watt or so.
You don't. Some of them you don't need to. If you, especially on the micro, if you get up in the upper level frequencies, you don't need that much.
That's right. That's right. A big microwave tower is, those radios are 10, 15, and sometimes 20 watt radios. They're not, and we're talking about dozens and dozens of miles with high bandwidth microwave. And they're not that big of a radio.
You still don't want to stand in front of it.
No, you do not. You do not. All right. So thank you for that, William. Let's see what Kenneth has for us. Atlanta 9.5. Your audio was just a little bit low, but your signal was pretty good. So if you get right into that microphone, I think we'll be able to hear you just fine, Kenneth. Go ahead with your comment.
Okay, thank you. This is Atlanta 9.5.
That's much better.
I just wanted to say thank you for the net, and also, since I didn't get to talk about it earlier, I'm actually one of the weird ones that did start with ham radio first. I didn't know anything about GMRS, and about 6 months after getting my technician is when I got into GMRS. And I will be at the Dalton Ham Fest on Saturday, so hope to meet some of y'all in person then.
Fantastic. Yes, there's a number of folks that find out about GMRS after they've become a ham, and it's certainly it's valid. I mean, there's not a rule that I'm aware of that limits your GMRS access if you're already ham.
You're definitely not alone.
No.
I'm right there. I learned how to program a D-Star radio and go into reflectors and connect to my own little personal hotspot before I figured out how to program a repeater into a regular analog handheld. And then, Atlanta 810, John, he introduced me to GMRS and this great venture.
Yeah, so and no matter what mode that you start out in, there's valid application all the way around. So again, I would encourage you to chase your interests, and in so many ways, there are ways that we can expand the way that we enjoy radio from where we are right now in GMRS to other things, and. I didn't even talk about the Pico balloons or the weather balloon launches. That's so much fun.
Yeah.
We've done that years ago. I hope that somebody in the group will decide to launch a balloon. I think the North Fulton Amateur Radio Club has a fairly regular balloon launch. That's a lot of fun. We were talking about APRS. These balloons will use APRS to be able to allow you to go to a website and track the location of these balloons throughout the day. And throughout the days, and if it's a Pico balloon, throughout the weeks, and hopefully that balloon will circumnavigate.
Come all the way back around.
Come all the way up.
So there's a youth group within the North Fulton Amateur Radio Club that has set records for circumnavigation. I think they made like 4.5 loops on a single balloon. So.
And you know what the funny thing about APRS is? It's not just about tracking geodata. There's more. There's a lot more to APRS in the amateur side.
Yeah.
That you can do. It's you're geo tracking, you're geo basing things, and you're also sending out digital communications, emails, all sorts of different things that you can do with APRS. So
lots of opportunities to expand your radio enjoyment outside of GMRS radio. GMRS is great. And we have something unique here that doesn't exist anywhere else in radio, but we also have a lot of opportunity once we expand beyond GMRS. So I hope that many of you will be encouraged by tonight's conversation, and I hope that many of you will meet us at the Dalton Ham Fest. Let's break. Oh, where is that script? Is that it? That's not it. There it is. All right, boys and girls, thanks a lot for hanging out with us tonight. I think we are at that part of the program where I'm going to say this concludes the North Georgia GMRS Regional Net. Tonight we had a total of let's check in with our net logger
Director of roll call.
Yeah.
Director.
And we'll give him a chance to sign too while he's got the key.
It looks like we had 76 check-ins tonight. So with that, I'll hand it back over to you, and I'll say good night. This is WRWM 344, Blue Ridge 63. My name is Mike. Back to net control.
All right. Thank you, Mike. I appreciate your efforts this evening. It takes a huge load off having that logging function handled the way that you do. So very, very appreciative of that. So there we go. We had a total of, did he say 76?
77.
77 check-ins tonight.
I think we're going to have to audit that.
We may need to call in the auditors.
Yeah,
there's some. I think there's one that's in there twice, and there's a blank line there, and yeah, who knows? We had 70-ish check-ins tonight, nearly 80.
Yes, that would be an accurate statement.
Yes. So with that, net control will now be returning the repeaters back to normal use. Everyone who signed in, this is not a Teams call, should sign out. Thank you for allowing us to serve as your net control this evening. Good night, everyone. This is Atlanta 946, WQYR 514. My name is Justin.
I'm in Atlanta 829, WROI 773. My name is John.
And I am in Atlanta 750, WRMR 367. My name is Jeff.
We are North Georgia GMRS Network.
And we are clear. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.